Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge. Once again, I am here by myself today. Belle Garcia is out of office today. Her and her partner are out on vacation this week. They will be back. Well, Belle will be back next week, so don't worry about that. You can get used to the sort of one person setup once again for just the 1 week only. We have a good amount of things to go over, so Belle's missing some pretty important news here, some critical stuff that we were going to look at last week that some stuff we'll have to look at next week. So with that being said, we'll jump right into our Seattle Seahawks news here, who continue their offseason. But as we mentioned, the NFL Combine was last week, the last few days, really, even stretching from the 3rd through the 6th. So just some notes here. There was a few players that confirmed that they met with the team here on the offensive side of the ball. You see some local names there. Max Borghi and Abraham Lucas from Washington State, Kate Otten from Washington. Some interesting names there. If you look at some key spots that Seattle will more than likely look at, offensive line, running back Isaiah Spiller is a downhill back that would certainly fit Seattle's system. But obviously, whenever draft time comes around, the rumors about certain players getting picked by certain teams always comes into the mix. Huskies wanting Huskies to be on the Seahawks, Cougars wanting Cougars to be on the Seahawks. So with that being said, those are the confirmed players from the offensive side of the ball that met with Seattle. Also, other combine notes from the day. Pete Carroll said that the Seahawks do intend to sign Pro Bowl free safety Quandre Diggs, cornerback DJ Reed, and cornerback Sidney Jones, in addition to left tackle Dwayne Brown. Intends to is obviously a lot different than absolute certainty. So whether the money is right, whether those players want to be back is a whole nother thing. Even if Dwayne Brown wants to play another year is another thing. And I'm assuming he will, considering that he may be getting up there in age, but last season, the seasons, while he's been in Seattle, despite his age, he's had good years. So I imagine that Dwayne Brown will be back. It's just how the money will work. And hoping that general manager John Schneider, Pete Carroll, they can spend this money correctly and efficiently without having to overpay necessarily in places that you don't need to overpay. And then the final piece of information in terms of team-related notes is that the team, John Schneider and Pete Carroll, were both asked about it while at the Combine, about the idea of trading Russell Wilson, and that the Washington Commanders had sent in a significant trade package. They said, whenever teams call about the quarterback, we pick up. But the first thing that we say is the quarterback is not for trade. We are not trading the quarterback. I've said this ever since we've run the show here on Converge, ever since it's been around, every time the rumor comes out. Russell Wilson is not going anywhere. And I will look at you, since I've got the solo monitor here today, the solo camera. Russell Wilson's not going anywhere. I highly doubt that's ever going to happen unless he comes out and he looks at the camera like I'm doing right now and says, I want to trade out of Seattle. And so, again, I consider that a non-story until we get some actual concrete evidence about that. And when it's rumors and he said, she said, and some guy like Jordan Schultz getting on his platform and saying, oh, this and that, it's a non-story to me. It's a non-story until we get anything actually concrete about it. So in continuing, in league-related news, on March 3rd, the NFL announced that it will be eliminating COVID testing for the 2022 season. In a memo sent to the league and all teams, the league declared an end to COVID testing for the 2022 season. So that, could play a big role, obviously, in the state of Washington here. I believe that the mask mandate is being lifted for all major outdoor events on March 12th. I could be wrong about that, but I know that we're getting some mask changes in the state here. And obviously, some things are going to be changing on the NFL level as well in that regard. So looking ahead for the league itself, the NFL, March 8th, which is tomorrow, is the deadline to franchise or transition tag. I know that a few teams have already used that franchise tag, and there was news that the Seahawks may put the franchise tag on Quandre Diggs. I don't have a confirmation about that, and I'm not 100% sure about that. I doubt that even used a franchise tag, really. And if you're looking at somebody to use that on, the prime the prime person to do that would be Rashad Penny, to give him the 1-year deal. Not necessarily money-wise, I wouldn't consider that ideal, but he would be a prime candidate just because of the length of that. And then on the 16th, which is a little bit out from now, and we'll look at this again next week, the new league year begins, and that's when free agency itself opens up. That is the first door that the Seahawks need to get to, and what will be a maze of an offseason to navigate through. So, some important dates coming up. The 8th, by next week, we'll hear about by next week we'll hear about it on the show here, but on social media, obviously, if you check us out on Instagram, Circling Seattle Sports, Twitter, Circling Sports, and Facebook, Circling Seattle Sports, we'll know by then. We'll have that much more up to date. But if the Seahawks decide to use the franchise tag or a transition tag, we will know in the coming week. So